Hello, dear friends. Here we are, 30 days of inner journey. Your thought is your life. It's a journey with Emmanuel through the hands of the lovely Chico Xavier, the medium. He brings to us the synopsis of the directives given in the schools of regeneration in the spiritual realm. And here we have 30 chapters that summarize guidelines for our lives on the earth. It's not easy, it's not simple. If it were simple, we wouldn't need it. And we today are going to study chapter 19, Prosperity. What a beautiful chapter. So fitting for the life on the earth. What is prosperity? What does Spiritism say about prosperity? And did you know? Emmanuel says that we study this book with the same title, Thought and Life, in the schools of regeneration in the spiritual realm. Do you think these schools are spiritists? Spiritist schools? No, they are universal. Today I've got the opportunity, while we were serving the homeless in DC, in collaboration with the Friends of the Essene Church in Bethesda, they handed me a book that the title was Remolding Your Life by Yogananda. That book was written in 1943. And what was most striking is the sentences, the statements of the talk that Yogananda gave in California in 1943, way before this book was published. And he says, you are what you think. Universal truth. When Emmanuel mentions to us that this book is studied in the School of Regeneration, he's not saying Spiritist School of Regeneration. He's saying School of Regeneration. It's the universality of the principles. So today, as much as we're going to learn about detachment, an invitation for us to detach ourselves from labels, as long as they do not foster bridges with others, we shall be careful. Being Brazilian and non-Brazilians, Americans and non-Americans, we may not like when a leader says everything is America first, but if in my daily life I put Brazilians first, Colombians first, whomever else first, I'm doing just the same. I'm sorry to say this, but we need really to be fully aware. And Jesus was courageous to tell us the truth. And fortunately, this is the truth. Nobody comes first. Everybody comes first. So whatever you and I can do to equalize, isn't that what we want? Equality of rights. So let us give everyone the same right to know these teachings that free us. And let us not feel that we are going to embrace just a few because we feel, oh, poor them. Being an immigrant doesn't mean we're poor anything. It's a graceful opportunity. And as Divaldo Franco mentioned once in an interview of the Spiritist magazine many years ago, usually, and these are Divaldo Franco's words, it's published in the Spiritist magazine, and you can rescue that magazine in our website, thespiritistmagazine.com. We have the archives. You can read the PDFs or the app, which is free of charge. It says clearly, most often than not, immigrants come back to the lands where once they committed crimes, and now they are here to regenerate themselves and give back what they've taken in the past. Let us humble ourselves. We're at a time in which leaders are not exemplifying humility, but it's our time to humble ourselves in the circumstances of life and say, I'm here to learn. I'm here to provide equal opportunity to everybody like we want. And if you have a resource that others don't, make sure that others have that resource at hand. Okay? I know it's a tough conversation, but that's the conversation we have to have as we proceed in this study. Thought in Life. Hello, Karina and Sunshine. Kátia, Léa Severo, Angelita, Jussara, Adilson. You're right, Yogananda is a beautiful mind. And Melissa, Patricia, and Sol. Friends, it's very important. We're not here in a popularity contest on the earth. Jesus wasn't either. He's our guide and model. So we don't want to be popular, because if we try, we're never going to make it. Even Jesus, no matter how loving he was not, to date, he's not the most popular of all, right? Yeah, that's how it is. So for us, it's not about sugarcoating anything. It's about sharing the message. And the message is very straightforward. Hello, Constance. Welcome back. And hello, Jonathan. How are you, my friend? Prosperity. Let me read the chapter for us, and then we will comment on it together. Reminding ourselves that this is a therapeutic journey in which we relieve the scales of our eyes and see clearly. I can see clearly now that the rain is gone. The rain of my whims. Because when we're whimsical, it's tough. It rains, pours on us. We can't see clearly. But when it's gone, we can see clearly. Emmanuel, chapter 19. Shall we? Prosperity. Prosperity on the earth generally means wealth and happiness. Many want to possess it so they can attain a prominent social status, authority, or power. People spend a great deal of energy during their lives to acquire advantages. Occasionally, the media reports those who study the occult as a way to obtain prosperity. There are millions of people today who seek after gold and prestige with the same eagerness of primitive people on a hunting expedition. In pursuing whatever he values in life, man mobilizes his mental energy, which stems from his emotions and desires. If the mirror of the heart is constantly focused on certain objects and situations, it leads us to the elements of our soul's desire. We should not forget, however, that in our arduous journey towards the divine glory, we oftentimes confuse ourselves with the object of our attention. We then dwell in a certain sector of our struggle according to the extent and duration of our aims. Like a film projector where story is told by frames that succeed one another, our personal experience is a series of reflexes about our feelings. These registered feelings generate the succession of ideas that in turn cast the theme of our struggle. The mind then associates and identifies itself with the reflexes, clinging to them like a turtle which retreats into its protective shell. For this reason, the concept of prosperity as understood in the world is always debatable. Not everyone knows how to possess, increase, or manage prosperity in a way that follows those sacred objectives of creation. There are many who continuously reflect upon ways to acquire wealth, and they succeed. However, if they do not employ this wealth for the general good, they merely fall into their own pit until they decide to stop their greed. Many people today eagerly toil and crave personal prominence. They become renowned in the areas of sciences, religion, literature, and the arts. But if they do not activate these abilities to help in the education of their fellow beings, they almost always, despite intelligence and fame, suffer the mentally rebounding effects of extravagance, therefore falling into a dangerous maze of purification. That is why prosperity is more deplorable than material poverty itself. A table without food and a cold stove are sometimes a valuable means of reparation. Sumptuous banquets and full purses often develop into guilt feelings from which the only way out is through long periods of struggling and darkness. May religious people ask, why does God protect the material progress of the ungodly? Many religious people ask it. The fact is that such fortune does not really exist. Prosperity that is devoid of right conduct is nothing but an unlawful acquisition of things. It is like shiny clothes covering hidden wounds. The false sense of prosperity requires new thought reflexes that are contrary to the errors that produce them. True prosperity, when transformed into service, education, love, and righteousness, confers to the spirit the predominant reflection of light. Yeah, today the chapter is in need of another step of help. That's why we have the picture here. Thank you, Melissa, for mentioning it, to inspire us even more. The guide and model. To talk about prosperity, he's our guide. And I put myself in dark clothes so I can minimize my presence and make his presence ever more beneficial to us. Because these teachings are clearly exemplified in Jesus' life. He's our guide and model. This is a journey, inner journey, 30 days of inner journey. Do you think that Jesus was prosperous? How so? If he is our guide and model, how did he exemplify prosperity? Was he a role model in prosperity? That's the ultimate question. Because he was a guide and model of the laws of God. Prosperity goes hand in hand with it. How was he prosperous? Hello, Rihanna. Welcome, welcome, dear friend. Yeah, Rita Di Cassia. Is that how you say it? By loving all the time, Rita Di Cassia? So you mean that he was prosperous because he loved always? Thank you for sharing your comment. But we need to think, right? If he is the guide and model for us, how was he the guide and model in prosperity? Thank you, Rita. But how was he the guide and model in prosperity? Because many people, when they need to deal with prosperity, they have no reference. They don't have like a righteous reference like Jesus Christ. And how was he a prosperous guide and model? That's a question for us. As everything, Spiritism is going to redefine the term prosperity. And it's so interesting because it's very likely that we're going to finally, once and for all, see prosperity from a different angle. So we're not going to feel less than anybody, because prosperity is something that everybody can achieve. And it looks like that Emmanuel is disclosing to us that prosperity is not directly related to material gain, material earnings, material possessions. Adilson is kindly sharing, Jesus had everything he needs to fulfill his mission in abundance. Exactly. Abundance. Abundant master. Abundant in love, as Rita de Cassia mentioned. Abundant in virtues. Abundant in resources. Everything he had, he gave. So let us go back and dive into this ocean of opportunities for inner journey. Okay? Friends, as we talk about prosperity, we talk about how hurt we feel when people confiscate our rights, confiscate our ability to achieve things. Like today I was reading a beautiful tale of a frog. This frog, he didn't have, his friends around in the forest thought, he can't go far. He's never going to climb a tree. But he was deaf. He couldn't hear what people were thinking and saying about him. Deep inside, because people seem to be nice to him and cordial, and when people are fake and they say hi, but deep inside they don't believe you can do much. The frog, because he couldn't hear what people were saying, he kept thinking, people believe I can do it, I have to do it, they wait for my achievement. And he made an effort, and effort after effort, he made it to climbing the tree. So it's a lesson for us that this prosperity does not depend on anybody else. For many people at Jesus' time, they thought, like the frog, he couldn't climb the tree. Like Hanan, remember his first appearance in Jerusalem when he just started it out? He sat by the stairs of the temple, the synagogue, and these idol Pharisees were talking, chatting, and they observed Jesus' elegance, originality. So Hanan approached Jesus and asked, "What brings you here, Galilean?" Already putting him down. "I came here in search of God's kingdom." And Hanan replies, what makes you think you're going to do it? And the dialogue goes on and on and on. And Jesus, he could, differently from the frog, he could hear very well. He could see even further down the line, but he was already emotionally so strong. He was above and beyond. And he didn't deter himself because of people were saying. And here we are, a model for us, a model. Also in that abundant teaching, do not expect people's approval to do what you have to do. I'm not saying to be narcissistic and do what we want to do for our own benefit, and people protesting around the world and not noticing and pretend you're not seeing or undermining people. No, that's narcissism. We don't want to be narcissistic in our lives. Our family is complaining about us and we're like, oh, everybody's nagging, but I'm still the right person. No. We do what we have to do. And usually, as Kardec said, if you want to know the right measure for when you're in the right path of your evolution, many people don't agree with you. The closest one, as Jesus said. And sometimes friends. And even spiritist friends. Oh yeah. Yes. Because many people want to maintain the status quo. And we need to progress. When Kardec asked this question in the Spirit's book, can we at any point regress? No. We never regress, but we can delay our progress. And the progress of the earth, but never regress. So what we're seeing around the world is not what people are saying, we're regressing. No, we're not regressing, we're still cleaning up what's inside of people. Because many spirits who were in the spiritual realm decades ago are now incarnated. Centuries ago. They are now incarnated. And they are learning lessons. We're learning lessons. So when people were protesting saying, we can't go back, you're right. But we're not going back. We're still cleaning up what is in the mental, the collective mind of the planet. Remember, 2 realms. Many people who were discarnated and were against women's rights and were against equality of races, etc., now they are incarnated and they are learning their lessons. And the world is saying, no thank you. But Spiritism explains, we're not regressing, friends. We're just coming to terms so the earth can evolve. This mentality still exists. And we're now having an opportunity to see it with our eyes, incarnate to incarnate, and say, no thank you. No longer. That's not the pathway we want, right? Prosperity. What is the definition? Just to see how Emmanuel is hand in hand with the thoughts on the earth. Prosperity is defined by the dictionaries like the Merriam-Webster. The condition of being successful or thriving, especially economic well-being. So, according to this material definition, Jesus was not prosperous. Okay? That's the bottom line. According to this definition, he was not successful, thriving, economically well. No, he was not. But he's our guiding model. Was he prosperous? Did he give example of prosperity? I know some of you had already shared. Thank you very much. Now we're going to go back to Emmanuel and verify, okay? Hello, Felipe. Prosperity on earth generally means wealth and happiness. See? Here, financial happiness. Many want to possess it so they can attain prominent social status, authority, or power. And even though we're spiritists, many of us are like this. Still, like they say here, like primitive people on a hunting expedition, waking up and barely seeing enemies on everybody. Right? And thinking that everybody whom we're going to talk is a political staff. Like primitive people. In everything and everyone, there must be the enemy. Somebody who is going to get what I have, so I have to hide it. The myth of childish minds. Remember when in the first chapter, Mirror of Life, Emmanuel mentioned that our minds are composed of departments. The department of desire is one of them. The department of imagination is another one. Prosperity is also about working with the departments of imagination and desires. Illusions in life. We need to work on it. What is prosperity for you? There are millions of people who are seeking gold and prestige, like that. I remember when a friend of mine who was a scientist and a professor here in the United States, and because just like me, like one day she wanted to put a pause in her career, which was hard to get there, to spend time with the children and raise the kids when they depend on us the most. I remember she said, you know what my dad said to me? That I better go back to my job. Otherwise, who would I be without the exercise of my career, my profession? How many of us are like this, feeling like we're defined by the external titles, the external positions, etc., etc., etc. Pause. This is not a yes or no question because we wish it were as simple as that. We need a scale to ask our gradation, where we are, the range of our thoughts regarding how much we define ourselves based on these external achievements. Do you think you're better and you're a good person because you achieve a profession that is recognized? That you have money and fame and status and position, da. 0 to 10. How much do you think you're still attached to that? 10 being like, oh, I still feel like if I don't have it all, I am nobody. And 0 feeling like, Jesus, like I don't need anything. I feel great. Where do you think you are? I'm also thinking doing the exercise myself. Let us think about it. It's the inner journey. And even in Spiritism, there are people who feel this way. Okay? They feel that if they don't have an X position, they are nothing. And they start treating others who have X positions as if they are better just because of those positions. Friends, we're not in the church any longer. You don't need to kiss the hand of the Pope because we don't have a Pope in Spiritism. Okay? We love Pope Francis not because he's the Pope, but because he's a fantastic person and a fantastic and responsible religious professional, because he's a religious professional. And I'm not undermining him. But in Spiritism, we can't go there. Chico Xavier never had any positions in anything. No certificates of mediumship. Divaldo Franco didn't either. And why are we going to respect people more because they temporarily hold certain positions? Even me as a president of the center. I'm the president of the center because I have to be to organize, because people who come here, they've never been a spiritist. And that's what we have to do. But at the SSB, I'm no longer the president. And they are doing fantastic works. I'm not defined by it. Do you feel you are defined by it? Let's think, okay? Hello, my friend Joyce. Aw. And Justino, Maria Edith, thank you for coming in. And Liz, adorable mom. Thank you. But we need to think. These are difficult things to say. But friends, we have to have the courage, as Jesus said, to say what we have to say. To help us get ourselves out of this prison. We're done with this prison. I don't like to be in prison. I don't. Do you? No. We want to be free. Like Elsa from Frozen. I'm free. Let it go. Let go of these material possessions. Marilda. In pursuing whatever he values in life, man mobilizes his mental energy, which stems from his emotions and desires. Period here, because he's talking about the dynamics of our minds. Our desires and our emotions are going to trigger mental energies, mental thoughts. So, if you wake up every day thinking, I need to buy this car, I need to buy this car, I need to buy... Nothing wrong if you need the car. But it can't be more important than helping a neighbor, than helping a friend, than participating in a community effort. Friends, we will always have material goals to achieve. Some people tell me, Vanessa, the day, somebody told me once, the day, and when people say this, I'm like, oh, obsession. Obsession. Self-obsession. Because we limit ourselves. People say, the day I win the lottery, I'm going to help the center. Say, please don't. Go read the gospel. You don't need to win the lottery, because Jesus never won the lottery. He's our guide and model. You have the lottery of your health, of your vitality, of your youth. Use it. Time. Right? Time is in my hands, and I better use it. As Liz is saying, let it go, let it go. Exactly, Liz. So that's the chapter today, Prosperity, chapter 19 of the book, Thought and Life. So it's very interesting because it says, we need to observe where is our mind, that's where we are. So we need to go to our emotions. Vanessa, I can't stop thinking about that. So observe your emotion. What emotion is triggering you to be focused on that? There are many people who are striving to have material achievements, not because they're bad people. It's because they still need the approval of their parents. They're grown-ups. How many people? They still feel how many parents, I'm sorry to say this, are guilty. Because they applaud their children when they get to material achievements. But when they detach themselves from those goals, many parents turn their back, just like Paul of Tarsus and his father. When Saul of Tarsus told his dad, Dad, I'm not going to pursue the material illusions any longer. His dad turned to him and said, you're crazy. You're insane. You're not my son. How many parents are like this? Zillions. Zillions of parents. I hope we're not going to be one of them. Let's watch and pray. Oh, you got A in school. You're so good. Oh, you got an E. Bad girl, bad boy. This is not good. This is not good parenting. Our children are wonderful, irrespective of their achievements. That's not how we're going to make them excel. Not by telling them, I'm going to love and admire you more if you're prosperous, you're famous. It's a crime, my friends. I tell you the truth. It's criminal, and I'm not being harsh. But according to the laws of God, it's in the Jesus in the home. When we discourage our children from pursuing humble beginnings, from pursuing what they love, to pursue what we think is right because it's about material prosperity, we're killing the soul of our children. We hope we're not going to do it. Tough talk today. Man, mamma mia, only Jesus to help us. Please help us, Jesus. It's tough. Emmanuel goes straight to the point. So we need to ask ourselves, What is feeding me? Only laughing, right, friends? Don't shoot the messenger, because I'm not even the messenger. Manu's the messenger. I'm just the reader. I'm just like that. In the library when the children's the lady reads the books for children. That's all that is. I'm just reading. I didn't write the book. I don't know. I'm just learning, just reading, sharing. But here he says, we need to go to the center of our desires and emotions. They're triggering that mental focus. Why do you think you're so focused on wealth, these material achievements? What do you think you're going to gain? How do you think your emotions are feeding it? How do I think? I know. I wish that too. But we'll get there. Thought and Life, Liz. Thought and Life is the book by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier. If you go to sgny.org, the Spiritist Group of New York, they hopefully still have some copies for you, okay? If not, send them a message. Jussar and João can lead you to some solutions on how to get a hold of it, okay? So friends, let me share something with you. Prosperity. We should not forget, however, that in our arduous journey towards the divine glory, Emmanuel is not lying to us. He's saying this journey to divine glory is hard. It's intense. Thank you, Jussara. She still has copies, friends. We oftentimes confuse ourselves with the object of our attention. We oftentimes confuse ourselves with the object of our attention. Okay? We oftentimes confuse ourselves with the object of our attention. Why am I reading again and again? Because that's one of the most important things. We then dwell in a certain sector of our struggle according to the extent and duration of our aims. We oftentimes confuse ourselves with the object of our attention. So this is important for us. Are we confusing ourselves with the object of our attention? Then we think, for example, okay? I think of a car. And I'm like, oh, that car. I feel so much better. I need to ask myself, why do I feel better? Oh, because it's beautiful, of course. It's harmonious. Beauty is beauty. Nothing wrong with beauty. But when I feel better, like Virginia said the other day, Mom, I'm happier now because you gave me this gift. And I said, oh, Virginia, let me share something with you. We are happy with or without gifts. If we depend on gifts to be happy, we won't be happy every day. Because sometimes we won't be able to receive gifts. But we need to pay attention to the gifts of life. And that's how Professor Euripides Barçanufo, he taught us to talk to children as millennial souls. Look, she's only 3 in the body, but I say, Virginia, look at me in the eye. Let me tell you this, for your own benefit. Do not expect gifts to feel happy. Do not expect an ice cream or chocolate for you to be happy. You feel pleasure. Let me tell you, there's a difference in pleasure and happiness. She's only 3, but we cannot baby talk. We talk with kindness, joy. But I sincerely learn with Professor Euripides Barçanufo, eye to eye. Virginia, what you're feeling now is pleasure. That's not happiness. And pleasure is something that we can acquire with many different things, many different ways. Not only gifts are gonna push that button inside of your brain. And it's so funny because I talk about the brain to her. And one day she was telling me a story and she said, and sometimes we think, oh, the child got it. The spirit got it. They know it, but the child. And she was telling me a story where the person had the brain in her foot. And then I smiled. I said, you know, that's so cute. But we keep investing. You know, the brain on the foot. We wish we had our brain on the foot, right? to know better where to step in life. But we need to talk to ourselves about it. What you're feeling now when you get into a beautiful car, beautiful house, when you look at yourself in the mirror and you see a beautiful hair, is pleasure. God made us to feel pleasure, and we shouldn't feel guilty. Pleasure is okay, as long as we do not get addicted to it until the day we feel the pleasure to serve. Emmanuel said this in the chapter about work. That's the ultimate goal. Pleasure to serve. Why do you do this? Oh, because I don't know. I'm addicted to serving, people may say, right? And it's possible. Science already proves how the areas of the brain, the nucleus accumbens and others, are activated when we feel this pleasure of service. So instead of chocolate, maybe serving people. That's not bad for a diet, huh? And sunshine is mentioning to us, falsely expecting love, but I think it is fear that drives us to chase material prosperity. You're so right. No wonder, sunshine. Jesus said to Peter that more often than not, it's our vulnerability or fragility and not our evil that makes us do things. But we need to be stronger, not be afraid. Courage. Courage, and say, you know what? I don't need this. Okay. So we need to ask ourselves, are we confusing ourselves with the object of our attention? Are we? Do we think we are what we have? Or what we need to have? What we have temporarily? Because we lose it. And then we get lost. No wonder many people, they lose their job, they're distraught. They lose their children, they're distraught. I'm not saying it's easy, but we need to work on these feelings. Responsibility is one thing. The other thing is attachment. I was Vanessa Anseloni before I had Virginia as a daughter. And I continue to be Vanessa, but now I also have the head of a mother, and I take responsibility. But does that define me? No. Does that give me an opportunity to improve myself? It shall, and it has to. And why not love it? Love the opportunity, but it doesn't define us. Okay? Friends, it's very important for us to understand about this. And I'll tell you a story, if Mentor Joseph allows me, at the end of it all. Like a movie that is told by frames that succeed one another, our personal experience is a series of reflexes about our feelings. Feelings, feelings, feelings. It's almost like the song. Feeling. Oh, feelings. Da da da. And I don't know the rest of the lyrics. But it's about feelings. These registered feelings generate succession of ideas that in turn cast the theme of our struggle. So the question is, what are these feelings that are feeding me to, oh, I have to be the president of the Spirit Center or else? I'm like, really? You need it? Why do I need it? Why do I need a position? Why do I have to be the person who brings the money into my house to feel good? Many mothers are feeling like, I don't want to be dependent on my husband. I understand your feeling, but if, temporarily we have to go through it, or husbands say, I'm not going to stop taking care and take care of my children and depend on my wife. Why, you think you're less because you don't provide the money? Who taught you this? Fear of what? People don't tell me what to do because I don't provide the money. No. Like people tell me, I only answer questions to people who pay my bills. Pay my bills? I answer to questions from whomever. If you ask, I'm going to answer. And if I don't, I'm going to refer to somebody who knows. But fear of what? And I tell myself I'm not less because I'm not providing the money entirely to pay the bills right now. I'm not less because I don't have exposition elsewhere. I'm not less because I'm not the, just like Snow White, that the beauty. Hi friends, here we are back. We had a glitch here in the system and here we are back with you. So we're talking about how these feelings bring to us and how many teenagers are stuck in this feeling that if they don't have it all, if they are not at the very core of everybody's acceptance, they are nobody. Okay? So we need to ask ourselves, how much do we depend on these feelings to aim at goals in life? Okay? So Emmanuel is saying the mind associates and identifies itself with those reflexes, clinging to them like a turtle which retreats into its protective shell. So because it's generated by feelings, and remember, feelings, it's about vibrations, and they are the core of ourselves. And we actually trigger ideas, thoughts that we reflect and are going to attract other things, and we're going to depend on them. Like many people, they depend on, for example, if you read Marilyn Monroe's interview by Humberto de Campos, it's a Kardec radio, and the Spiritist magazine as well. It was published through the mediumistic efforts. It was written through the mediumistic efforts of Chico Xavier. And if you go to kardecradio.com, there's a search bar, you can Google Marilyn Monroe, and she says clearly how she entered this pathway of clinging on these emotions to make her feel like to be loved. I need to be in a certain way and be sensual. She attached herself to that paradigm of sensuality, of beauty, of material fame and status, to the point that she attracted to her great obsession. She didn't commit suicide. She actually was pushed to the abyss of it all. Why? Because of her own. Any time we create that venue, we open the door for obsession. Okay? So Emmanuel is saying, let's pay attention to it, because obsessions are gradual. There is a chapter later on, we're going to talk about obsession in this book. Right now, we're talking about how we generate a lot of it. And here we have, for this reason, the concept of prosperity as understood in the world is always debatable. Emmanuel is not accepting, and not only him, but the schools of regeneration, they do not embrace this concept of prosperity that the world does. Not everyone knows how to possess. And he's saying, possessing something doesn't mean you're prosperous. Increasing and managing prosperity not necessarily makes you prosperous. And he says, prosperity is about possessing, increasing, managing in a way that follows those sacred objectives of creation. If I use my resources, time, health, anything, to achieve this goal of cooperating with God, being co-creator, we're prosperous. So now we know how Jesus was prosperous. Anything he had, his health, his time, his resources, everything, intelligence, loving feelings. Yes, he shared, he multiplied, increasing. You see what he's saying? It's about possessing, increasing, managing. Where are we in that regard? What are the things that are given to you in this life that God is asking you to be prosperous? Increase it, multiply it, manage it. Or if I have a title and I keep it at home and I don't use it, I'm not working on my own prosperity. The sacred objectives of creation, he doesn't mention here, okay, sunshine, but he mentions here that the sacred objectives that he said before, which is to cooperate, chapter 3, to cooperate with God, to serve. That's our objective in creation, to be good co-creators, constructive ones, right? And yes, we're back, Constance. Thank you for coming back here, okay? And Melissa is giving to us here the Wikipedia. Prosperity comes from Latin prosperare, to cause to succeed in Old Latin. Prospere, according to expectation, etc. Thank you, Melissa. So this gives us an opportunity to go to the root and beyond, because Emmanuel is telling us a new definition. He ends this chapter by telling us about the spiritist view, the spiritual view, the universal view. So this last third says, if we do not employ this health for the general good, we merely fall in our own pit, and we are greedy. It's not about saying being in the areas of science, renowned in science, literature, in arts, if we don't activate those abilities to help in the education of others. I'm telling you this, seriously, the state of things in our world is a sign of how much we didn't do any better. We need to do more. So don't be shy. Remember, if you think you have a good idea, please put it into practice right away. Oh, but what are people gonna think? I think I need to write to Divaldo Franco. Divaldo, what do you think of this? Oh, please, don't do this. Because there's where we have these books. We don't need to bother Divaldo with the obvious. The good is the good. But if you think, or if I think of doing something bad, then I better call Divaldo and say, Divaldo, I'm thinking of something bad. Thank you, Vanessa, for coming here, talking to me. I'm going to help you. But let us not, please, once and for all. I know people in Spiritists, and Spiritist representatives, like presidents of Spiritist centers, who are like, oh, Vanessa, you're going to do this. Did you ask Divaldo? Did you ask Gordinho? Did you ask? Of course not. Should we ask them if we should study online? No, I can write to them saying, you know, we're doing this. Or not, I don't have to, because it's between God and us. I don't need to ask permission from anybody to do the good works. You don't either. Do your good work. I've got to know of Dolly Parton's project. You know, she's 71 years old, and years ago, many years ago, she started this beautiful project named Imagination Library. And she has this notion, as Emmanuel is saying, that every child needs to read to do what they have to do. So she says, in the first years of life, look at this woman's wisdom. She's an instrument of God on earth. She's a singer, but she's becoming an educator par excellence, using her resources to educate humanity. And if you have a child, if you sign up, they start receiving books monthly until they are 5 years of age. They customize per your child. Did she ask the President of the United States permission to do this project? No. Did she ask permission from whomever? No. Why? Because it's good you have to do what you have to do. It's good you do what you gotta do. What do we need to do to manage these resources? Finally, why prosperity is more deplorable than material poverty? Why? Because it leads us to guilt, he says. And it's going to make us struggle in long periods of struggle, of darkness because of our guilt. You know, there is a book that is yet to be published, Torments of Obsession, by Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, through Divaldo Franco. This book was already translated. Many of its chapters have been coming along in the several issues of the Spiritist magazine, and this chapter did too. And you can also listen to it at Kardec Radio, just searching it in our search bar. And he talks about how guilt creates this energetic cocoon around our perispirit, making us feel immobilized. We cannot move. This man who was wealthy, who was a politician, but a bad politician, etc., when he discarnated, his guilt was so intense that he enveloped himself in this constant guilt that was coming out of his thoughts and creating this, like, you know, the caterpillar creating the cocoon, guilt imprisoning himself. The more resources we have and the less we do with it, the less I use it for the general good, the worse it is. Do the math. Oh, you volunteer once a week? Beautiful. For how long? For an hour? How many hours a week? How many hours are in a day? 24. And in a week? And you use 1 hour for others and the rest for yourself? Oh, but I'm working. And you're working for you, because you have your salary. Oh, but I'm working for a company. Yes, but it's for you. Oh, but I'm helping my family. Yeah, but it's your family. It's obligation. Selfless giving begins where duty stops. To care for our family is duty. It's not charity. To do a good job at work is duty. It's not charity. So how many hours do we use for serving others? How many hours? Some people wrote to me and said, Vanessa, you're going to do this every day at 11 p.m.? And I said, my friend, in 24 hours, if I don't use 1 hour a day, at least, to to do something beyond my things, and this is also beneficial to me. Why am I reading these books? Just to say it's beautiful? I can't, right? And this is no charity because it's benefiting me. So this time we're spending together is no charity. It's beneficial to me too. Finally, yes, prosperity that is devoid of right conduct is unlawful acquisition of things. So what is true prosperity? It's the one we transform into service, education, love, and righteousness, making us conferring to the Spirit the predominant reflection of light. As André Luiz said, we are immersed in God's thoughts. If I don't use 24/7 my thoughts and feelings to the general good, my words and actions to the general good, I am not aligned with the light. I'm not allowing my light to shine. And can you believe it? Again, we're wrapping up today by telling that we need to let our light shine. Really? Yes, it is true. Adilson is saying, your discipline is helping us to discipline ourselves. Yeah, I'm learning to, Adilson. There's always another level. So, together, we're stronger together, right? You know? Let me share with you. Prosperity, as Emmanuel is saying, is about transforming thoughts, feelings, words, and actions into service, education, love, and compliance to the loves of God. Then we're going to feel the light. It's like that cute little song I learned from Virginia's book, The Veggie Tales, the cucumber and Larry and Tomato Bob singing. Our relationship with God, that's the true prosperity. When you look in the mirror, you see His touch, 'cause God made you special and He loves you very much. And if He loves you, we have abundance of love. We share. He's care. We gotta share, we gotta care. Yes, friends, we gotta share and care today and always. And let us feel the prosperity of the Master in multiplying service, education, love, and compliance, righteousness on the earth as it already is in heaven. Until tomorrow, when we're going to study together the word of the day, habit, chapter 20.